April the 16th, 1918. Jesus comes hidden in our pains. This is a very important message as well, and answers lots of questions that people ask. What about my pains? And I always say, before you go for the Panadol, read this. Continue in my usual state, I felt my poor heart oppressed in the midst of bitter pains, which is not necessary to give in detail, thanks be to God. So Jesus said, my daughter, I send pain to souls so that in the pain they may find me. So the first thing you're hearing is that the pain, whatever it is, whether it's physical, mental, emotional or spiritual, is a nudge from the Lord saying, do you remember me? Okay. I am as though wrapped within the pain. And if the soul suffers with patience, with love, she tears the wrapping that covers me and she finds me. Otherwise, I remain hidden in the pain and she will not have the good of finding me and I will not have the good of revealing myself. He's in everything, no matter what we experience. And then he added, I feel an irresistible force to spread myself towards the people. I want to give you, is it Proverbs 8:31? The Lord delights to be with the children of men. I feel an irresistible force to spread myself among the people. And that's also because God is love. I would like to spread my beauty, that's the first thing, to make them all beautiful. But the soul, dirtying herself with sin, rejects this divine beauty and covers herself with ugliness. So he's giving us a very clear picture as to why sin can't have anything to do with divine anything. So sin is ugliness, and he wants to give us divine beauty. Number 2, I would like to spread my love, but loving what is not mine, they live numb with cold, and my love is rejected. Now, loving what is not mine is that you're loving something material or even worse. I would like to communicate all of myself to man. I would like to overshadow him completely with my own qualities, but I am rejected. That's number 3. And in rejecting me, he forms a wall of division between me and him, to the point of breaking any communication between the creature and the Creator. Now, we're the ones who form the wall of division, we meaning human beings. But in spite of this, I continue to spread myself, I do not withdraw. This is the unconditional love of the Lord, which is usually given in the Greek as agape. I do not withdraw, in order to find at least someone who would receive my qualities. And if I find that person, I double my graces for him. I increase them to 100-fold. I pour all of myself into him to the point of making him a portent of grace. In other words, the Lord is so thrilled to find somebody who would let him work within them that there's no limit to what he will give you. Therefore, he said, remove this oppression from your heart. Now, the oppression is what we allow to get in on ourselves, the anxiety, the low moods and all of this kind of stuff. Remove it from your heart, he said, and pour yourself into me, that's your fusing, and I will pour myself into you. Jesus told you this, and that's enough. Have no concern about anything, and I will do, and I'll take care of everything. We find it very difficult in actual practice to let the Lord do everything for us. We agree theoretically, all right. But we have a great fear of losing control, that someone else might be in control of our lives. We find that extremely difficult. That's why he says that the final surrender of the will to him is the greatest thing he can ask, and he won't ask anything else. So April the 25th, 1918, Jesus plays with Luisa. One of the wrong images that were passed on to us in childhood was that God was somehow a domineering figure up in the sky who would give you a whack if you were 2 minutes late for anything, or if you didn't pull up the scratch and all the rest of it. And the idea that the Lord might want to play with you would be off the Richter scale. And so we have not allowed God to show himself the way he wants. So Luisa said, I was saying to my sweet Jesus, my life, how bad I am. Now the word bad is, the word she uses is kativa, and it really means a naughty little thing. It doesn't mean bad as in sinful, otherwise she has no relationship with him at all. But even though I am kativa, and I like the fact that they keep the word, I know that you love me. Now the way we would say it is, in spite of my weaknesses, in spite of the fact that I don't really come up to the mark all that often, you still love me. And the salvific point there is that he loves us, because then you will be able to come round. I don't know what you say to the Lord if you're having a bit of a crisis. I just say to him, hold on to me until I come round. So in other words, he's hearing, I don't want to break. And so Jesus said, picking up the word that she used, he said, okay, my bad little one, he said, you surely are bad, but you've captivated my will. In other words, you're so bad that you captivated my will. Can you see him playing with her? Okay. Had you captivated my love, my power, my wisdom, he said, you would have captivated part of me. But by captivating my will, you've captivated the whole substance of my being. Now somebody's going to ask you, what is divine will? The answer is, the divine will is the essence of God. You've captivated the whole substance of my being, which crowns all my qualities, and therefore you have taken the whole of me in one leap. This is why I often speak to you not only about my will, but of living in my will. Because since you have captivated it, I want you to know all about its qualities and the way of how to live in my volition, so that you may live common and inseparable life together with me. Now that word inseparable is extremely important. That means the human love is lost in the divine. The human will is lost in the divine. The human life is lost in the divine. The human works are lost in the divine. Inseparable. And up to now, Jesus has only referred, up to now meaning up to volume 12, Jesus has only referred to his mother as inseparable. And from here on in, Luisa is also inseparable. And he wants us also to be inseparable with him. That you would live common and inseparable life together with me. Because that's real union. That's divine marriage. And that I may reveal to you the secrets of my will. Could you be more kativa than that, he says. I absolutely love that. And Luisa said, you're making fun of me. I want to tell you that I really am kativa. He said, yes, he disappeared. She wasn't getting the point. He was trying to tell her, listen, if you've captured my will, which is the essence of me, how can you be bad? He's also saying to her that God does not look at us the way we look at ourselves. We often look at ourselves the way other people look at us. In other words, I'm wearing a white jumper, there's one little black spot, and all your friends will say, what happened to the black spot? They won't say, what a beautiful jumper you're wearing. They look at the thing that's wrong. And that has sort of got into us. And so we only look at the sins and the faults and the defects, and we don't look at what the Lord sees. It's a pity. It's when someone falls in love with you that they begin to say to you that you actually look different than what you think. And it's the Lord who is love in essence, who looks at us in love and through love and sees us as we really are. Okay, the white jumper might have one black spot on it, but 99.99% of it is white. So it's a white jumper. Thank you. You see the way looking at something makes all the difference to how you respond. So here comes Lent, May the 7th, 1918. The divine will grinds what is human. Look at the word. There is a text in 1 Samuel 28:28, which says that the Lord threshes the wheat, grinds it down to powder, but he doesn't thresh it forever. When it gets to powder, that's it, you've arrived. But the part of living in the divine will that we find difficult is that when the Lord sees a bump that needs to be straightened out, you know what I mean? He sees something that needs to be dealt with, because we have an extraordinary ability to deceive ourselves, unless you're different to me. And so you can think that you're completely given to the Lord. He has a very, very simple way of testing whether you are completely given to him or not. And that is, he'll put you into circumstances in which you're being asked to do something you don't want to do. Oh, it's dead simple. And the no comes up. It's wonderful. So the Lord has to go working on this so that we're able to really surrender. So continue in my usual state, my sweet Jesus told me, my daughter, if for a few days you don't see me as usual, do not afflict yourself. She does that all the time, of course. Evils will increase, and heaven and earth will both strike man. Take note. That means chastisements will come from heaven and from earth. And I do not want to afflict you by letting you see so many evils, because you will go mad, you see. And Luisa said, my Jesus, the greatest pain for me is your privation. It's death without dying, a pain indescribable without end. Jesus, what are you saying? I without you, that's not possible. Mind, Jesus, she said, don't say that to me anymore. I tried to give you that the way it was said. Don't you go talking like that anymore. She has such an extraordinary relationship with him that not actually seeing him and talking to him in this way is completely hell for her. We just have to take it as such, because if we have not had the same experience of meeting the Lord like that, we can't even imagine what it's like. Okay. So Jesus said, my daughter, do not become alarmed. I did not tell you that I would not come, but only not often. I told you beforehand, so it's not to make you worry. Look at the way God is reaching down to a little creature. And he's the one who told her she's only an atom. Why would he pay so much attention to one little atom? Isn't it incredible? And this is the way we have to sort of touch the enormity of this revelation, that God is pure love. That's why he would give that amount of attention. I told you beforehand, so as not to make you worry. My will compensate for everything, because in my will, the human will is ground down. In other words, we fuse ourselves in the divine will, we do know that we're not perfect. But when the divine will says, do you mind if I remove this bit? We mightn't like it. Even though we know we're not perfect. Because in my will, the human will remains ground down. And I extract the flower, the fruit, the crafting of my will, and I place it together with me to live a common life. Only the bit that's been divinized can live in common with him. And the human, like bran, remains separated and remains outside. So eventually the Lord needs us to become totally spiritualized. And you will see this when you get to the higher volumes, that Luisa herself has become totally spiritualized. It's fascinating to watch it. Therefore, let the machine of my will grind you thoroughly. I think that's Isaiah 28:28. So that nothing human may remain in you. So our surrender to him is also us giving him permission to do what he needs to do. That's like saying, I become a patient in a hospital and I sign a consent form that I will allow the doctor to do whatever is required to get me out of where I am into where I should be. But notice nowadays they get you to sign a consent form. May the 20th, 1918, everything, but everything is concentrated in the divine will. Continue in my usual state, I was saying to my sweet Jesus, how I would like to have your desires, your love, your affections, your heart, etc., so that I would be able to desire and love, etc., as you do. So then Jesus tells her how to do it. My daughter, he said, I don't have desires. How could he have desires? A desire means you're lacking something. And he lacks nothing. It's very interesting. I don't have affections, he said. But everything is concentrated in my will. My will is everything to me. One who cannot do something desires. But I can do anything because he's omnipotent. One who does not have love wants love, so he desires it. But in my will there is the fullness, the very source, the fount of true love. And since I am infinite, in one simple act of my will, I possess all goods, which overflowing from my being descend for the good of all. If I had desires, I would be unhappy. I would lack something. But I possess everything. Therefore I am happy and I make everyone else happy. Infinite means having the power to do anything. So that's the omnipotence of God. It means possessing everything and making everything happy. Now notice, he is talking about beatitude all the time. The creature who is finite does not possess everything, nor can she embrace everything, and that's why she contains desires, anxieties, affections, etc., which she can use as many steps in order to ascend to her Creator. That's John 1:51. She can use to lap up the divine qualities in herself and be filled so much as to overflow for the good of others. That's John 7:39. So the next little paragraph, we talk about the possession of God. But if the soul concentrates all of herself, now all means 100%, not 99, 100% of herself in my will, dissolving herself completely in my volition, then she will not just lap up my qualities, but in one single gulp she will absorb me into herself. That's the possession of God. And she will no longer have within herself her own desires and her own affections, but only the life of my will, which dominating her completely, we sang it in charismatic days, He is Lord, He is Lord. And it's only at this point He really is Lord in our lives. Dominating her completely will make everything disappear. Everything disappear is everything that's human that holds her back. And will make my will reappear in everything. Matthew 6:10. Now, that description you got there, I think it's all one sentence, actually shows us the reordering that has to happen in us in order that God can take over and that the relationship that God had with Adam before the fall can be restored. So, May the 23rd, 1918, the flights of the soul in the divine will. This morning my sweet Jesus did not come, and I spent it amid sighs, anxieties and bitterness, but all immersed in his will. That's Psalm 42, verses 1 to 3. And Psalm 63, verses 1 to 8. Psalm 42, verses 1 to 3 says, I have nothing but tears for my bread night and day, as they say to me all day long, where is your God? And Psalm 63 says, O God, you are my God, for you I long, for you my soul is thirsting, even my body is pining for you, and so on. So those two psalms fit Luisa in her privation points. As night came, she said, I could take no more, and I kept calling him over and over again. My eyes could not close. I felt restless. I wanted Jesus at any cost. Now there's a point that we can check for ourselves. How badly do we want Jesus? It's only when we know how badly we want him, we will know what we would pay as well. She wanted him so badly that she would have him at any cost. So at that point, the Lord knows that somebody actually loves him. So at that point, he came. And he addresses her as my dove. Now for that you need to go to the Song of Songs, chapter 2 and verse 14. And chapter 6, verse 9, where the bride in the Song of Songs is addressed as my dove. My dove, who can say to you the flights that you take in my will? The space that you cover, and that the air that you swallow. That's a very interesting expression, isn't it? The air that you swallow. So I want to give you Psalm 55, verses 6 to 7. No one, not even you, he said, would be able to understand. Now my book says, say it. It's really understand it. You wouldn't be able to understand it. I alone can comprehend it. I who measure the fibers. I who number the flights of your thoughts. Now, Matthew 10:30 says that the Lord even counts the hairs of our head, which I would call a waste of time, but never mind. He said, I who number the flights of your thoughts and of your heartbeats. And as you fly, I see the hearts that you touch. Jeremiah 17:10. The hearts that desperately need to be touched. But do not stop. Fly to more hearts and knock again and again. Okay? I've just remembered something there, and that's Revelation 3:20, I think it is. Behold, I stand at the door and I knock. Do you remember that one? And if you open up to me, I will come in. And so the Lord tells the soul in the divine will, go and knock on people's hearts. Go and knock on their hearts. They've got to be called. And so the evangelization that we do in the divine will is all interior. The evangelization that other people do is exterior. People, and I've been there as well, that you go to their countries and you teach them or you heal them or whatever it is. It's exterior. This is entirely interior. It's on a different level altogether. So don't stop. Fly to more hearts and knock again and again. And fly over again, and on your wings, I will bring my I love you to more hearts. So there's the soul like a little airplane travelling all over the world to different hearts, and the Lord allows his I love you to take a ride on that little airplane. I will bring my I love you to more hearts to make me loved. So you can see here the need for all of us to do multiple acts of reaching out to other souls, to give the Lord a chance to ride on us. I think that's a beautiful image. It touches me very much, that the Lord would ride on my back with his I love you to some soul I want to reach. To make me loved, he said. And then in one single flight, he said, come into my heart and take refreshment, and then start again your rapid flights. So come back to me, have a cup of coffee and fly off again. I enjoy myself with my dove, naturally, because this dove, I love the image because it's a bird. The dove is actually doing what the beloved wants. And I call the angels and my little mother, look at the word little, there's the nothingness, to enjoy themselves with me. But do you know, I'm not telling you everything, he said. The rest I'll only tell you in heaven. I think that's brilliant. In other words, no matter what I say, your mind is so limited, you couldn't possibly take the whole thing. And if you could, you'd probably die of joy. How many surprising things I will tell you in heaven. And then he placed his hand on my forehead and he said, I leave you the shadow of my will, the breath of my volition. Look at that, going asleep. Isn't that wonderful? The shadow of my will and the breath of my volition. I knew we'd come to the jealousy. May the 28th, 1918, the jealousy of the love of Jesus for Luisa is so great that he takes everything away from her. Now, one of the things that you're told quite frequently in the first 5 books of the Bible, the Torah, the most sacred part of the Bible, is that God is jealous of his people. And what that means is that he's the husband, the people are the wife, God was the bridegroom, Israel was the bride. In the church, Jesus is the bridegroom, the church is the bride. In the individual person, he is the bridegroom, the individual person is the bride. He wants complete possession, as every husband does. Okay? He wants complete possession, and he wants that bride completely in him so that they operate entirely as one. I think that what we look at in our everyday life, like the experience of marriage, is only a pale picture to point to what the Lord is actually trying to do with us all, both individually and collectively. Now, to give you just a few references to the jealousy of God, there's lots of them. I'm only going to give you a few. Exodus 20, verse 5. Exodus 34, verse 14. So Exodus 20, verse 5. Exodus 34, verse 14. Deuteronomy 4, verse 24. And Deuteronomy 5, verse 9. Now, another way of saying jealousy, and you'll be more used to the other way, is that God wants an undivided heart. Okay? And the undivided heart is Deuteronomy 6, verses 4 to 10. You're to love the Lord with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your being. And that's actually lodged in human marriage as well, because the spouse either spouse won't tolerate the other spouse loving somebody else, because the relationship is exclusive. And so this exclusive relationship the Lord has with his people, and he has with each individual soul. And that's why they call it jealousy, because the Lord will really defend his people. And it's fascinating when you go through the Old Testament to see what the Lord does to defend his people, and what the Lord will do to defend his church and the individuals that are in it. So, Luisa said, finding myself in my usual state, I was saying to my beloved Jesus, Jesus, love me. I have more right than others to be loved. Why would she say that? Because she's given completely to him. She's entirely at his disposal 24/7, 365. Because neither do I love anybody but you. Now that's something we can check for ourselves. Is there somebody we love besides the Lord? That means, is there something that I'm committed to besides Jesus? Like we have people going to church and they're also going to New Age things. So they're not loving the Lord exclusively. They don't realise that when they go to Tai Chi and what do you call that other thing? The yoga and all the rest of it, that they're actually loving another God. They don't realise it because they've been caught on this deception. So one of the things is very, very clear, that we must clarify, is there anything in me that I'm putting ahead of him? And that's something we need to check all the time, because we can put some material thing, we can put a person, an attachment to a person, we can even put an attachment to an experience and make it different to the Lord. You know. And you can also put yourself ahead of it. I'm the great teacher. Who is she worshipping? The finger points back at herself. Or I'm the great healer. Now you wouldn't use the words, but you see people acting that way, that I'm the important person. I remember giving a retreat at one stage. I'll try and keep this anonymous, okay? And it was an all men's retreat. Now St. Paul tells the woman shouldn't tell a man what to do, but never mind. And I said to the group, are we all in? And they said, well, not quite. So I said, do we have to wait for this one other? And they said, so I realised this one other was somebody very important, and there were double doors. And next thing, the double doors opened, in walks this huge man, and the entire message that came with them was, I've arrived, you may begin. I said, wow. There's somebody not even on the platform. He's worshipping himself. I've arrived. And all the others knew that this was going to happen. So some of them asked me privately, was I impressed? I said, yes, but in the wrong way. I said, the poor lad's not even on the platform. He doesn't know what worship of God is. He's too busy with his mirror. You know. So we have to be very careful not to put something ahead of the Lord. And it can be something very small. It doesn't have to be something huge. So Luisa said, you know, I have more right. And she said that I don't love anybody else but you. Nor does anyone love me, she said, which is rather interesting. And if someone seems to love me, she said, it's for the good that comes to them. That's rather interesting as well. That, you know, if you're good at something, people want a slice of the cake. I remember talking to some Nigerians, I think it was, a couple of years ago, asked them what were they doing in Ireland. And they said, we want to share in the Irish dream. I said, now I've been here all my life, what's the dream? But if your country is perceived to have something, somebody else wants a slice of the cake. And if you're good at something like teaching or healing or anything, they'll want a slice of the cake. So they might want you, but it's not actually you. It's what you're going to give to them. So Luisa said, even the ones who seem to be friendly, it's what they're going to get out of me. So they're not really loving me. She could see it quite clearly. Therefore, she said, between my love and yours, no other love enters in the middle. Here's a person completely given to God. And Jesus said, my daughter, this is nothing other than my strongest love. It is such that the jealousy of my love for you takes all things away from you. So please realize that if the Lord takes a person, a thing, an experience away from you, he's loving you, he's not hating you. He's like the mother who finds the little child playing with the carving knife in the kitchen, and out of sheer love for the child and everybody else as well, takes the carving knife out of the hand of the child and puts something safer in. The child mightn't like it, but you're actually loving them. And so it's terribly important. He says, the jealousy of my love for you takes all things away from you. Jesus is saying to her, I love you so exclusively. I want to take care of you myself. I want to do everything for you. I don't want anybody else involved. And my jealousy is such that I remain on guard, so that not even a shadow of love, that means on the wrong level, of any creature may breathe in you. At the most, I tolerate that some may love you in me. In other words, they'll have a spiritual relationship with you, but not outside of me. That means not on the human level. Otherwise, I'd make them flee. What will the Lord do to make them flee? That means he takes strong action, gets rid of them. Don't ask me to comment on that one. And this also means that neither have you entered into any other heart, nor has any other heart entered into yours. In other words, she has an undefiled heart. Matthew 5:8. Only the pure in heart can see God. Then around night time, Jesus came back with the Queen Mother, calling me by name, as if they wanted me to pay attention. How beautiful it was to see Mother and Jesus speaking to each other. The Celestial Mother was saying, now the next paragraph is Our Blessed Lady interceding as Luisa intercedes for her children. Okay. My son, she said, what are you doing? What you want to do is too much. So I want to give you John 19:25, where she was constituted the mother of all humanity. So as mother of all the children who are being chastised, she says, no, it's too much. So it's like the wife saying to the husband, no, don't go too far with this. Don't go too far. I have the rights of a mother, she said, and I grieve that my children are suffering so much. You want to open heaven for scourges, and you want to destroy your children and the food that will serve to nourish them, in other words, to cause a famine. You want to destroy them with infectious diseases. You want to inundate them. Both of them are happening, aren't they? Yeah. What shall we do? You say that you love this daughter of mine, she said. How much will she suffer if you do this? So, Blessed Mother is using Luisa as a lever to tell Jesus to stop the scourges. I think that's fascinating. Look at that just for a relationship. I think it's fantastic. You say that you love this daughter of mine. How much will she suffer if you do this? So as not to embitter her, she said, you won't do it, will you? Oh, that's brilliant. And she pulled him towards me, Luisa said. Now, in my book, that's a capital M. Is it capital in yours? Yeah. Small m, because it's Luisa. And Jesus, determined, said, no, I cannot. He's resisting. I divert many evils because of her, but not everything. My mother, let us allow the whirl of evils to pass, that is over humanity, so that they may surrender. That is somehow the human race would surrender to the divine will. But the amazing thing is, we're a century later, have we surrendered? So, even though Jesus is resisting both his mother and Luisa, I want to give you Psalm 145:17. Psalm 145:17. God only ever acts out of love. Because God is love. He's not able to act any other way. Then they said many other things between themselves, which I could not fully understand. I remain terrified, but I hope that Jesus will placate himself. So we're going to stop here for our lunch break now.